Hello, GTM engineers, and hello, YouTube, for those people tuning in for the replay. This is the second episode of the CRM Hygiene Series, and we're very happy to have Karl. Karl has been building avidly on HubSpot a lot of GTM engineering workflows that we've come across, and because he's particularly good, we wanted to bring him here to share his expertise on this topic. Um, so I'll have him introduce himself very quickly. Just a background on the CRM Hygiene Series. So this is content that was requested very heavily by our community members because you can't really start to do AI or anything agentic on your data if you don't trust it. And so we have a range of episodes on how to deal with your CRM right. We did one 2 weeks ago on CRM deduplication, and we have more coming. Today, we're talking about false associations between contacts and companies. And Karl is going to tell us why this is important. So, Karl, maybe take some time to tell us who you are, what you're doing today, and why are we talking about this topic?
Yeah, cool. Thanks for the invitation, Tarek, and all the Cargo team. So my name is Karl. So I'm currently freelance go-to-market engineer. Previously, I was working at different early-stage companies, working in cybersecurity and HR tech, doing like GTM engineering, but also like more broadly like go-to-market lead and head of growth. So today I mostly work with companies in Europe, in the US, helping them set up workflows and working on some different kind of topic to help them grow faster.
Excellent. And so what we have in store for you today is we're going to talk about why this problem is important. So why contacts being associated with the wrong companies makes a difference to your GTM organization. We're going to show you some pitfalls of what people usually do wrong or what they don't do enough. And we're going to deep dive on a template that we've built together, me and Karl, to fix this. And so this template is available to you publicly. We're going to share the link, and you can just directly fork this into your Cargo workspace if you want to pursue this. So without saying much more, let's dive in. So let me go to the next slide. Karl, maybe let's kick this off. So what have you seen from your experience? Do you have anecdotes on the problems created by not addressing the false association problem?
Yeah, I would say the most important thing is that when you have wrong data in your CRM, when you have like false association, you can lose the trust of your sales team. And I think that's the most crucial thing to think about, because if your sales team is not like believing in the data that you give them, well, they won't activate it, they won't use it, and in the end, all the work that you are doing, to have like a multiple source of data inside your CRM, will not be used. So that's a waste of time. And yeah, just an anecdote about that is more like I was working with a sales, and yeah, for various reasons, like the sales like did a misentry in the CRM. So having the wrong company to the wrong contact, and it was like the case for like maybe hundreds of companies. So that's a lot. So based on that, the sales like just stopped using the CRM and was just like blitzing in LinkedIn. So a month after, we were like, okay, so we don't have any visibility on what he did. We don't have any visibility on what are the contacts that we contacted, how did we contact them, what was the messaging, etc. What was like the strategy behind that? We don't know, because we don't have any data about that. But why the sales did that? Because like he lost the trust around the data in the CRM, so he went outside the CRM. And for every RevOps people, go-to-market engineer people, that's kind of the nightmare, because if you cannot track, if you cannot see what is happening, you cannot like help them, you cannot help the business grow. So I think that's really, I do insist on that. It's really important to have clean data and like data that your sales team and all your team can trust, because that's the foundation of everything in your company. Well, for your business team, I would say. So if you have like a lot of false association, in the end, your sales won't be using your CRM, and that's not what you want to do.
So it makes a lot of sense. Did you also see that this sort of impacts the way you score your accounts? and where you choose to spend your resources?
Yeah. So that's a bit of the second and the third points, but you know, today everything has a cost. For all the folks here, like you probably have like a budget for enrichment, a budget for all the tools. And if you're enriching, if you are like looking at the wrong contact every time, it's kind of you're losing money on it. So, for example, let's say you have like a contact that you think that is associated, sorry, to the wrong company, and you think this contact is at this company. So you think you have someone to get in, like you will like try to contact this guy, but in the end, you're like contacting someone like that is not working there. So you are losing opportunity, just like to address the right people at the right time. So first, that's where you're losing money because you're not addressing the right people. Secondly, it's like more about the budget on what you have. You know, you have today like a lot of waterfall possibilities. You can use credit, etc. So you can like have like a minimal cost. But if we are talking about like a good, like a large amount of data in your CRM, if you have, I don't know, 100,000 or maybe 1 million entry line in your CRM, well, at the end of the month, it's a lot of money. So if you can like, and you have the question of budget, but you have also the question of API limit, of the rate limit. So you have to figure it out to be the most efficient possible. And yeah, with force association, you're like touching the point where you cannot like, it's very hard to prioritize the right contact. And that's like, that is linked to the my last point about, you know, your TAM. So if you have like, let's take the same example. If you have a contact like that is false associated to a wrong company, you can think that this company is in the right ICP, etc. So we'll be targeting this company because you think that this company is in your TAM because like the right persona is in this company. But in the end, if you have like a lot of false association, you can have like a lot of companies that are not in your TAM. So you're losing your time first. Secondly, maybe based on this TAM, you will create like a lot of strategies. You will create like you will prioritize your workflows, your go-to-market roadmap, etc. But you will create all of this based on wrong foundation because the data will be like won't be the right data. So I think that's, yeah, you have to be very careful on that because if you want to create something that is durable in the time, if you want to create something that you think will have an impact, you have first to make sure that all the foundation is like solid, all the foundation like is trustable. And yeah, that's the main point. And just to give you an example on that, so in like in a previous company I was working with, like we had like a huge TAM of like maybe more than 100,000 of companies. um and we were like doing assumptions saying, okay, so we think that, you know, companies between 50 and 200, they are the right fit because this point A, this point B, etc. But I did a mistake on creating the TAM because you know, you can have like a lot of companies with a name that is similar, but like with a domain, with a prefix, I don't know how to say, like the .com, sorry, for example, won't be the same for each companies. And I was thinking at first that it was like different companies. For example, you can have like cargo.ai, cargo. I don't know, cargo.hq, etc., etc. Because in a company, sometimes you have like a lot of different domain name. Let's take bigger companies like Facebook. Facebook, you have fb.com, meta.com, etc., etc. And I was thinking that all those companies were like individual, well, were unique. But in the end, we just like realized that, oh no, in fact, we did not like have like, I don't know, 200 of very ICP companies, but we had like maybe 20. So all the strategy that you're building, it's really different when you're targeting 200 and when you're targeting 20. You're not doing the same thing. So yeah, maybe we lost one quarter because we realized at the end that it was 20. But that's why I think we have to be very careful on that. And yeah, again, that's the foundation of all your strategy. All your go-to-market strategy will be based on the data that you have on your CRM, or at least the data that you want to plug into your CRM. So be very careful on that. And yeah, make sure that everything is at least, well, not 100% false.
So, Carl, I have a question for you. I mean, typically, people start to think about this from our experience when they're in a larger sales org or when data is starting to scale in their CRM. So they
Yeah.
start to see the cost. But what you're saying is, even if you're in the early stage of setting up your CRM or your flows, you should already be attacking false associations.
Yeah, I think well, it's always depends on the resources that you have in your company. If you're just alone, like you have to prioritize, sorry, all the item that you want to tackle this quarter, etc. But I think either for very early stage company or large or later stage company, it's very important to tackle this issue, even if you have like, and for both cases, if you can have like a very large TAM, it's very important to have the right numbers. And it's even more important when you have like a smaller TAM, because you want to make sure that you're targeting the right people. So um, I think, yeah, it's a question of, yeah, I don't think like company size matter, or company stage matter. It's just a question of how you want to execute. And it's not a question. If you don't have the right data, you won't be able to execute right. So yeah, I think you
Excellent.
have to figure it out as early as possible. But yeah, always you have to think about, okay, so what's the priorities? Is it like to make sure that the foundation is right, or is it like to push to find, I don't know, new segments, new clients, etc. Because at least for early stage company, even if you don't have like the right data and everything 100% perfect, you can still like find a way to find new clients and to grow, because well, you are a very early stage company.
Hmm.
But yeah,
And I guess as we'll see, like in a couple of minutes, the investment needed to attack this problem is not that great, right? Like it's a simple flow that you could set up within a couple of hours, and
yeah,
then you're good to go. This is sort of, it will happen recurringly in the background while you can focus on your other growth metrics.
yeah, sure. And yeah, for sure, it's not that hard to set up. And what we did, and we will talk about later, but it's a very easy workflow. On top of that, you can like now we have like AI, etc., that can help you a lot on that. Because if you want to be like more accurate on the filtering, you can add AI, etc. So for sure, it's not hard. I think always it's a question of priorities. But for sure, when you have like maybe you can see your roadmap and you can fit it like, I don't know, in a week for a sprint. I think it's worth trying at least. And it's worth like prioritizing, because all the company and all your sales will be thankful, because you have like a more accurate data in the end. And I think the impact of it is like way greater than the cost of implementing it.
Very clear. So with that said, let's go quickly to how to not do this, how to not make a mess of doing this, right? So we had a couple of points. So you mentioned domains. So domains either being missing or not being in the right form. Do you have any anecdotes of when you've come across this and what was sort of the best way to go around it?
Yeah, I think honestly the domains, because well, when you have your CRM and you create your TAM, etc., you have to find a way to have one key, because you have to identify all your accounts. So if you decide, I think it's the wrong idea to do that, but if you decide to say that, okay, my key will be the company name, well, it will be hard, because I don't know how many cargo companies exist in the world, but maybe a lot. So yeah, it will be very hard. So most of the time, people like companies choose to say, okay, the key identifier will be the website. You can have a lot of things in France, for example. You have like all the tax ID, etc., that will be unique, so you can start on that. That's great, but that's very hard also to get this data. But let's say your key identifier will be the website. Based on that, you can have a lot of variation of format for your website. You can have like a HTTPS, you can have like www, you can have like the slash, you can have the HTTPS and HTTP. You can have like the .com at the end. You can have a slash. For some countries, they have a lot of website with like the country before. For example, you can have like a uk.vodafone.com. So you have plenty of combination, and that's why it's hard, and that's why you have to figure it out, because without those keys, you won't be able to do anything. That will be very, very hard. Because for example, you have three companies with like different domains. We have one company with three different domains, but the domain is very similar, but in your CRM it's counted as three companies. So yeah, it will, when you want to dispatch the company to your sales, how you will do, like you won't dispatch the three different companies in the CRM, even if it's one company to do three different sales rep. You want to be like allocated to one rep. So yeah, you have to figure it out. It's very important. There's like a lot of things to do to, well, that's not that hard first, but you have a lot of things to figure out to clean all those domains. So I don't think that we will like dig deep in this, because we can do this like later, maybe another workshop. But yeah, for sure, you have to figure it out. You have, when you have the non-normalized domain, and on the other side, when you don't have any domains. For that part, well, that's another story, but well, in Cargo, you can, for example, enrich directly in LinkedIn or use Clearbit, Apollo, etc. You have various providers. But again, that's another topic, but you have to figure out that, and you have to make sure that the data that you put in your CRM is the right data, it's accurate, and yeah, and you have to do it programmatically. So you don't have to push it like manually every 6 months. If you can push it every time the data change, that will be great.
Very
So
clear.
yeah,
Awesome. So that's about company domains, right? And I think we should do a deeper dive on how to do this
yeah.
properly. That's a workflow in itself, as you said. There's also this other part. So what people fail to leverage when setting this up. Can you tell us like quickly about that?
Yeah, so that's a bit linked with with domains, because when you have false association and when you have the wrong data, the wrong place, it's very hard to leverage all the signals workflows. Namely, for example, job changes, new hire, when your champions like moves, uh, fundraising, M&A, etc., etc. Because how will you identify the company in your CRM if like the data is wrong? Well, it's very hard. Honestly, I had this issue when you want to create like a lookalike workflow. I think there is a template on lookalike on Cargo, but that's what I did like maybe 2 weeks ago. And when you look at it and you say, okay, whoa, so the domains are not the same. How will I do that? So for sure, you can normalize the domain inside your workflow, etc. But that's such a pain, and you have to figure out before. And that's the case for all the workflow that you will do, because you can like have a lot of signals like going on inside your workflows, inside your CRM. But if you're not capable to identify the right company from those signals, well, you're just like throwing money like away.
Mm, I agree, and I think as an anecdote for the audience, so champions and lookalikes and tracking sort of company level activity like M&A is one of the most are some of the most effective workflows that we see people build on Cargo and that actually gets results. However, 80% of the time in there is just spent cleaning up the mess that you've created by not like properly managing false associations, right? So
Yeah,
that's
and
sort of also the rationale for why we're talking about this.
and last thing, what is great about those signals and those workflows is that, okay, that's cool because we are go-to-market engineer, we are RevOps, so we do like workflows. But in the end, the goal of those workflows is like to be activated, and that's the hardest part of those workflows, because the salespeople, well, they have a lot of things to do. They have to call people, they have to mail people, etc. They have to get meetings, they have to sell something. But if you give them the wrong data, they won't use it, and all your work like will be lost. So it's great to have like those kind of workflow because it works. But why it's hard to make it work? It's because you have to think about all the funnel of the data, from the signal to the activation for the sales. And so yeah, that's why you need a clean data for that.
Very clear. So I guess that point is made. Unless there's questions from the audience, let's go into how we set this up. Ready,
Yep.
Carl?
Yep.
So step one, tell us about this.
Yeah, I think Tarek, that we will. I don't know if the audience want to go like a bit deeper inside the workflow, we can, but the most easiest way to do it like would be to go like more a high level view of what we are doing on this workflow. So yeah, for the workflow is like split in three parts, 3 or 4 parts. First part is more doing about an audit to say, okay, for each of my contacts going on this workflow, how many of those contacts are associated to 0 companies? So that's a problem because, well, a contact should be associated to at least one company. So okay, so that could be okay, but we will see later that maybe that's not, and more than one companies. So also we will get back to that later. But for example, you can have contacts. I don't know, maybe they are freelancer, so they are working with several companies. So you have like several companies linked to them in the CRM, maybe, or maybe just like you have multiple companies because your sales, or you mess everything up because you add like a new provider or whatever. So this first part of the workflow will help us like create some branches so that you can like you can work on them just after.
Very clear. And so, just for the context of the audience, this is very simple to do with
Yeah.
your HubSpot API integration. Basically, what we did here is that you search for all the associations against a contact ID. So you can bring out all the companies that are associated to that contact, and then you can just do a branch to say, hey, what was the length of these number of these associations? So you go left or right, given how many associations you find. And there's an intermediary step called that write node there, which is just logging the date of when you did this. That's very good practice because you probably want to do this periodically. So if you tag the date of your last action, then you can use some triggers. Again, that's very easy to set up in Cargo, but 3 months later the workflow will automatically do the same thing again.
Yep. And yeah, I just want to emphasize on what you're doing. I did a lot of cargo workflows, and I think this one is not very hard. I think to implement, it's like very easy. I think it's a good one to start with, for example. But yeah, for sure.
Very cool. And so next step, what happens if I find no associations? This is the left side of that branch.
Yeah.
Zero associations were found for this contact. What do we do then?
So we will base all of this on the email of the contact. Well, we are assuming also another thing. We are assuming that the contact has an email. I know that for some HubSpot and for some CRM, sometimes they allow to have like contacts without email. I think it's a very bad practice. But yeah, we'll start on that. We have the email. Based on that email, we will take the domain. So for example, it would be like facebook.com. Based on that domain, we will look inside your CRM, look inside HubSpot. If any company, have this domain. So again, that's why it's important to have like, the normalized domain so that you can do a search. If we find something, if we find the domain, well, we will link it to the contact. So that's pretty easy. And if we don't find the domain, we will look at secondary domain. For example, well, it really depends again on your HubSpot, but you can have like companies with different kind of domain, and all of those domain are registered inside HubSpot. So we'll look at additional domain, and if not, well, we won't do anything. What we can add on that is not in the current workflow right now is that if we don't find anything, we can say, okay, so probably this contact will be on LinkedIn, so let's search on LinkedIn. Based on that LinkedIn search, we have like maybe 90% of chance to have a company. Based on that, you will find a company, and you will either create a new one, or I don't know, associate to an existing one. So that's what is missing right now, because we wanted to keep it simple. But if you want to add this kind of enrichment part, it's possible, and I think it's really good to do. Yeah.
Yes, yeah, essentially. So you have three part outcomes from that switch. Let's say one is if you find a domain, you just associate with that.
Yeah.
If you don't find a domain, look in the additional domain. So that's the right part of the branch in front of you. And then we can add a separate route, which is to say, hey, let's enrich and try to find a domain for that person. What if we never end up finding a domain? We just park that contact, or would you rather flag it?
Yeah, I think it depends on your policy for the CRM. On my side, if we do not find, well, first thing is like, I wanted to understand. I just want to understand, like, with the to check, sorry, in the properties history, who created this contact. For example, it can be like a human mistake. I don't know. It was late. I created the contact manually, and I forgot the email, and it was the wrong name and the wrong job title. Right? Cool. If it was created via API with a tool, for example, it was with a cargo workflow or anything else, maybe we can look at it to see, okay, was it like a question with like the enrichment provider, which is like is it a question with, I don't know, like, did we have like any bug? Did we use AI, etc., etc.? So based on that, I will keep the contact. Well, it's my opinion. I will keep the contact inside the CRM to figure out. Maybe that's a real contact that has not LinkedIn, and that's really important. Yeah, you have market with a contact like outside of LinkedIn, so maybe you want to keep them. But I will add like a manual step. You can create a column, like a field in HubSpot to say manual review, so that like every month, maybe you will have like 20 of them, and you go one by one, line by line, and say, okay, this one is fake, this one is fake. Oh, this one that is great, and this company, well, is not on LinkedIn for some reason, so we will like associate it by any ways. But yeah, I think that's how you want to do it. If you delete it directly, the contact, it's really depends on people, but because I have a lot of FOMO every time, but maybe you will missing something. So I will just keep it, flag it, remove it like from all the board, from all the filters from every sales. But you know that this contact exists in your CRM, and you watch it every month to say, okay, this one is bad, this one is good, this one is bad, this one is good.
Yeah, and we've seen some people have success with this. Just to make it a habit, to throw in a Slack note there, and so you can
Yeah,
just have Slack alerts, and so those pile up, let's say, over a couple of weeks, and then you look at them one go. That's also a good practice. So that's pretty clear, I guess. Unless there's questions from the audience, let's go maybe to the right side of that branch. So you have one association, and in this case, you want to be careful, and you don't want to delete the contact, but you want to manual review. Why would you want to do manual reviews on this kind of mistake?
yeah. So we could think that one association is great. Well, that's what we want, for sure. What we could add inside this workflow is that for now we just, well, what we are doing is that, okay, we have one association. We will create, like, we have like a dedicated column, a dedicated field for that. We tick the box, and we say, okay, we do manual review. Great. Why we are doing that? Because for some emails, for some domain, we have like a generic email that can be Gmail, but that can be like a lot of temp email, that can be Hotmail, etc., Outlook, etc. So you want to flag them. What you can do is, you can have like a very strict approach and have a regex. Well, you can have like a JavaScript snippet node saying, for all the Gmail, Outlook, etc., you want to flag it and you want to filter based on it. Great, you can do that. We have like a more holistic approach with an AI. Say, hey, if you think, well, the prompt won't be that, but you can, the idea is say, hey, if you think that this domain is like a personal domain, flag it. So yeah, I think that's really important to flag those personal domain. It's even more important if you have like a PLG motion, because for sure you will have like a lot of people with personal email using your tool. And if you're plugging everything like directly in HubSpot, well, I don't know if it's the right practice, but you will have a lot of problems. But you have to figure out this kind of issue. So for sure, Gmail, all the personal domain, you have to filter them, or at least you have to flag them, and that's why we add this node, this branch. Sorry, you're muted, Tariq, I guess.
Yes, sorry. I was just saying I zoomed in onto the workflow, just to for the folks to be able to see what's going on. So this is the right side of that workflow logic, in which we have more than or one or more than one associations, right? And what's really happening here is we're just doing two filters. We want to make sure that there's at least, like, we want to rule out the fact that there's any matching domain, right? And so you can check against the domain as a whole, or as Carl said, you can do some partial matching. So in this case, we're just doing a simple include search, but you could also do some regex and something more complicated with a JavaScript snippet, right? And then if you want to take it one step further, you can add an AI node, as Carl said, to make that decision for you. And then on the left side, you do the cost route, which is just to say, hey, let's review this company. And on the right side, which is this last bit of the workflow, is to, you can, if you have more than one association, you might as well go ahead and delete those associations. Carl, would you delete all of the associations, or would you maybe like keep one? How would you go through that?
Yeah. Well, that's really depends. Again, sorry, but you can have like some companies that want to keep all the companies linked to to a contact, and just to keep the latest one as the primary company. So you can like choose this field inside HubSpot, like HubSpot field. It's like I think it's if I remember well, it's binary, so it's a true or false, and you can create this association. I think it's really for some companies it's really important to have like this historic of different companies, saying so that the sales when he look at the contact say, okay, great, uh, we know that this lead went from company B and company C, and now he's at company A. So when I will like write my email and write and contact them, I will have all this data in front of me, and I won't have to go on LinkedIn. So that could be very helpful, I guess. But on the other part, I know that some companies will be less, well, that will be less important to have like historic of the employment history of the contact. So yeah, you can delete it, you can delete the association, that's okay, but you can keep it and just remove the primary company. I think that's a way to do it. uh, but yeah, that really depends on the policy of your CRM and how you envision it.
Very clear. So you keep the primary company in this case and get rid of the rest if that's what your policy allows. And so that's basically the entire logic of the flow. Again, if there's any questions, please point them out in the chat. What I'd like to, because we still have a few minutes left, what I'd like to leverage call for is what did we not do in this workflow that in an ideal world with lots of resources you would have chosen to done like as a supplementary.
Yeah, well, a lot of things. We can do a lot of things to add like more relevance to this workflow. For me, what would be very important is to add like enrichment, uh, and it's a question of budget and how you prioritize things. But you you have to think about when you have all those companies and you're doing like all the triage of all those contacts. Well, you can leverage this workflow just to add to enrich all the fields that are missing in a company or missing in a contact. So yeah, I think that's something that will be very useful. You can do waterfall of those kind of enrichment using first LinkedIn, Clearbyte, and Apollo, for example. Then, well, Zoom Info if you want. So yeah, I think that would be very useful to use that. The other thing is that, as I said at the beginning, with uh, you know uh, non-normalized domain, well, that's something that you could add at the beginning of the workflow, because well, that's important. But you can normalize first. You can normalize the domain of the companies, but you can also normalize. Make sure that you normalize the domains from the email. You never know. Well, I think normally you won't have anything to add, but well, you will you can do it inside the workflow, I guess.
Very clear. So we build this with a very sort of simple frame in mind, Carl. Let's say you have a mission with a company who is just like, wants you to build the entire CRM sort of strategy. Where, at which point do you start to think about this workflow?
uh, I think at the very beginning, to be honest. Uh, I think at the very beginning, when you're starting, well, you're arriving, you're a new go-to-market engineer. You're arriving in a company that is like, I don't know, 100 people. They have a lot of things going on. The CRM like is flooded with all those data. But you have first to do an audit to say, hey, we want to understand where we at, uh, where we at in terms of data and data quality. So I think in the first week, if you can like clean all the data, that can be very powerful, either for you, but for the company in general. So yeah, I think that's one of the first thing that I will do myself, because as we said, all the workflow that you want to implement, all the workflow that we know that has that have sorry a very short term impact, for example, new hires, job changes, champions changes, etc. All those workflows needs to have like a clean data to be to run with. So yeah, I think that will be the first one of the first one at least.
Very cool. Very clear. I have one last question for you. So this workflow was built using the HubSpot sort of template, because that's the environment you know best. If we have, let's say, users looking to that in Salesforce, are there things to look out for, or do you think it's more or less the same process?
I think for Salesforce it's pretty much the same. Salesforce, the only thing with Salesforce is that most of the time, like you have kind of a custom build for Salesforce. Everyone has like a different way of working with Salesforce. I mean, you have like a different like setup for Salesforce. So you have like maybe you will have like maybe to personalize a bit the workflow, but the philosophy of this workflow works for Salesforce or HubSpot. That's pretty much the same. And we were talking about signals, etc. It's the same for Salesforce. I was working with another client like a few weeks ago, and on Salesforce, and that's the same case. And that's something that you really want to nail, because you know that if you have a bad data, again, if you have wrong data and your data quality is very bad, you won't be able to leverage all the things, all the workflows, all the signals that you are building along. So yeah.
Very clear. So let me thank Carl for his time, and for the audience for taking out the time to be with us live. I have a final plug. This is for YouTube, and any audience who is not yet part of the community. This series, the CRM Hygiene Series, and everything associated with it, was built up based on requests from our community members. And so we build content like this every week, and we bring it to you. If you're not part of the community, but you're curious about what GTM engineering is about, there's a QR code in front of you where you can apply to join. And there you'll find that people like Carl are living, breathing members, where we share templates, and they ask questions and they answer to your queries. So you can reach out to people like Carl inside that community and learn more. Having said that, thank you again, Carl, for having joined us. Thank you, audience, and those people tuning in async for your time. And please keep sending us your ideas so that we can build more content like this. We'll have a new episode in the CRM Hygiene series next week. Please keep an eye out for that. Carl, any final words?
Cool. No, thank you very much for the invitation, and see you then. See you next time.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. I'm going to go offline now. Have a
Bye
nice
bye.
day.